Hi, I'm Sean Carruthers and welcome to How Do I on Butterscotch.com. In this series we're asking, how do I shoot better video? In this episode specifically we're going to talk about upping the quality of your video. Now once you've picked a camera that you're going to shoot with, you'll want to make sure that you get the highest quality video you can out of that choice. Now when you're looking at something like, say, your iPhone or the flip camera, there's not a lot of options in terms of video adjustment on the camera itself. Now, it's always better when you have a camera like this to make sure that you're shooting in the best light you possibly can. So outdoors, daylight, or a brightly lit room. Shooting in areas with less light, like say a nightclub or a dark room or a basement or something like that doesn't have a lot of lights on, you'll notice that the video quality will tend to degrade quite a lot. You'll see things won't look quite so good, there won't be as much definition between items in there, and you may notice a lot of noise in the image as well, a lot of speckling throughout the image. Areas where the camera can't quite figure out what's going on, so it adds a bunch of noise. Now if you don't have the option about where you're shooting, for example, it has to be in this particular room because that's where the scene is taking place, rather than being able to take it outside where you have better lighting, then you might want to just bring in extra lights. Now you can go for something like a shop light from the local hardware store, but it's not necessarily the best choice with a camera like this. Now you notice shooting in different types of environments, especially darker ones, the quality of the color goes off into different directions. You'll notice that the color of a skin tone may go something much more orange. You may notice that it shifts over to blue depending on the light that you have in the area. So you want to make sure that you're matching the tones of light all around, otherwise you'll have some pretty jarring shifts. Now if you're shooting close up, one other option is just to turn the flash on your phone. So in this case we have a flash that's on here, and if you're shooting at a close distance, it should illuminate your subject fairly well. Something shooting from afar, maybe not so good, so you may want to make sure at that point that you just have more lights all around your area so that you get everything more evenly lit rather than having a little spotlight from your phone moving around the room, which can be fairly noticeable, especially if you're trying to shoot from a distance. It may not illuminate it properly at all, or it may just cast a little shadow around a face and then sort of move off as you move the camera. Now if you're using a camera with a larger design, like a camcorder say, a lot of them have a spot on the top for an accessory, and in this case we can use the LP Micro from Light Panels, LP standing for Light Panels. It's a little LED light, doesn't use a lot of batteries, but you turn it on and it actually lights up the area fairly well. You can see that it actually throws off quite a little bit of light. Now this right here will just actually slide into the top of your camera and lock into place, and then you can tilt it as necessary to make sure that everything is illuminated. Now again, it casts a little bit of a spotlight effect on the subject that you're shooting. Outside of this area, it sort of dims out at the edges. You can put a diffuser over the top of this to sort of spread the light out a little bit, but again, it doesn't provide large lighting over a large space, so if you want to shoot a lot of things without having the light disappear as you move off a frame, then you'll probably want to just create lighting all around the room. Now if your camera has the ability to adjust the white balance, you'll probably want to use this. Now if you don't know what this is, it essentially is a thing that tells the camera what part of the image is white. So if you're shooting something, you may notice the things that are white look a little bit yellow in the final video. Now you can change it by pointing at that and saying this is white. Either that or adjust it to different color temperatures. So shooting at night, shooting in bright daylight, various other situations that you may be, it'll automatically adjust to that particular environment. Now if you have manual, it's always better because you can actually point it at something that's white and say this is white, and then it'll adjust everything else accordingly without you having to say, guess, okay, it's this color temperature, or I'm in this kind of cloudy environment, or whatever, and trying to match that with the options that exist on there. So always go for manual if you can. Another option that may be valuable is if the camera has gain or iris control. If you open the iris right up, it'll bring more light into the camera. If you use gain instead, it'll actually amplify the image that's already there, but it will introduce a little bit of noise. So if you're shooting in low light, it is a way to get a little bit more out of the image at the expense of a bit of noise in the image and degrading of the image quality. But it is still better than not being able to see anything if that's your only other alternative. Now another thing for making sure you get the best quality image, of course, is making sure you can focus properly on the thing you want to focus on. Now if you're using the iPhone, you have the ability to tap on items on the screen and the camera will refocus on that particular item. And when you're using a camcorder, you may or may not have the ability to focus manually. Some cameras actually have a button that allows you to switch between autofocus and manual focus modes. Some have a little dial on it or a ring around the lens that allow you to focus in on the item that you want. If you set the camera up and are shooting at something about 10 feet away and something else walks into frame, say you're shooting across a sidewalk and people are walking back and forth through that, then as they come through, the focus point will move back and forth between the thing that you want in focus and things that are moving through the frame. And that's not ideal. And that's why you'd want to have an option for manual focus on these cameras if you can. In some cases, this may be a manual option, so you might press the button to put you into manual focus mode and then use the plus button or the minus button, plus, plus, minus, 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 to get the focus point to where you actually want it to be. It's a bit annoying, but it's good to know if it's there on your camera because it can help you get the image you want without it racking focus back and forth between items that may or may not be the focus point that you want. Now, if you're concerned about stability of the image, what you might want to invest in is a tripod. Now, we have this model here from Slik. It's under $100. It actually folds down into a very compact little design here, so you're not carrying around a gigantic beast with you. Now, one of the nice things about having a tripod is it's stable. It allows you to put your camera somewhere on top of it. Usually they have a screw hole on the bottom of the camera, and you just mount it on top like this, screw it into place, and then secure everything down, and now your camera is in one position. You can lock it off, point it at what you want to point at, and it'll keep that position. No more of this rocking sensation that you have when you're trying to do this all handheld. It also allows you to shoot yourself, of course. You can point this at yourself, flip the screen around, and then go around to make sure that you're in frame. Now, if you don't want a full-on size tripod like this or one of the larger ones, you can look for something smaller like the GorillaPod from Joby. Now, this is one of the small models, but there's slightly larger ones as well. And what these allow you to do is either put it down like so and keep it in position like that, or you can actually wrap it around something like the handlebars of your bike or around a flagpole or a tree branch and then keep this in position no matter where you happen to be. It allows you to hold it in slightly awkward positions potentially that you wouldn't actually be able to get a proper tripod into. Now, one of the nice things about having a tripod involved in the shoot, especially when you're in low light, is it actually keeps it more stable, which means higher quality images in low light. When you're in low light and you're moving the image around a lot, you'll get a lot of noise. By locking it off, you'll make it possible for the camera to read the same image over and over again, which gives you better quality in the long run. Don't forget to check out the other parts in this series on shooting better video. We also have the show notes for this and the other parts of the series at butterscotch.com.